Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's BAInsights. I'm really excited on this session to have Esta join us for a special session on team visioning. Before we get into team visioning and the number of questions around it, let's start first of all with an introduction to Esta. So Esta, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, please.
Sure. So my name is Esta Lessing. I am the founder of Businessanalysis Excellence. I've been a business analyst for a very long time, but I've also focused in the last few years on helping and coaching business analysis teams as well as individuals, as well as training them, of course. BAE is an endorsed training provider as well. So yeah, I'm very excited to be here, John. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I look forward to discussing this with you.
Pleasure, Esta. Pleasure. And good to meet you, of course. Let's start then with the first question. We were talking about team visioning, so maybe the first question should be, what is team visioning?
Sure. So, I think if you had to do a quiz and you had to guess what team visioning is, you will probably get it half right. So team visioning is a little bit like it sounds. It is about creating a vision for a team. However, with team visioning, there's a few fundamental differences from just creating a vision. It's about creating an ongoing vision that the team work together on in a frequent basis to keep up with the changes that we're going through at the moment. So it's an active activity or an active framework that the team follows to create a very practical roadmap to keep up with change, specifically for business analysts. It's been, we are sitting between technology and the business, and technology is just going faster and faster, and the world is just going to keep expediting. So we, as a business analysis team in our organization, really need to be able to keep up with that, but also keep adding value to the business and proactively demonstrate the value that we bring. So with team visioning, if you embed this framework into your team's kind of monthly meeting or quarterly meeting, it's a great way to, in a collaborative way, get everybody on the same page and cover all the key areas within a team beyond just capability, to be able to then define those roadmaps or practical steps for the team to keep on improving itself and keep up.
Excellent.
So that's in a short nutshell, and I'm sure we'll get deeper into it as we go.
I think so, but certainly as you were explaining that in the first instance there, Esther, I mean, one of the immediate questions I had, which you answered, was sort of like, how often seems to be appropriate to do this exercise? And I think you obviously mentioned, the monthly or quarterly team meetings seem an appropriate place to do that. I imagine as well that if there's any events that might cause the team to have a rethink of what their vision should be, that would also be another reason to have an impromptu session to reevaluate their vision. Is that right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's, it's a very important point that this is not about creating that, in the past, we would perhaps sit together and do a yearly session where we all create the vision. Or we might even not do a vision as a team, but rather just look at the organizational vision. Where with this is a simple, but I believe powerful way for the team to keep up with change, because now suddenly we find ourselves in a place where change is so fast that we can hardly see beyond the 12 months ahead of us. We need to really work and be a lot more agile and adaptive and be able to keep on adding value as a team, and the way we work is changing as well. So all of this, you cannot just run by the seat of your pants anymore and be sure that you'll be adding value in the right places. Where with team visioning, it really helps focus the team on all those key things on a lot more frequent basis, but in a focused way, so that we all know what we are delivering, why we're delivering, how we're delivering, what we need to improve, and so forth. And I'll go through some of the areas that the team visioning activity would cover, so that you can see that it's a lot more than just one vision. It's quite a comprehensive way for the team to start managing themselves at all levels.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, and that's again, I suspect you'll probably end up answering some of the questions that spring up to me or spring to mind to me as we go. But perhaps perhaps we're starting perhaps with the benefits of doing team visioning for a few lenses, I suppose. So the benefits to the individuals in the team, to the team itself, and to the organisation, if you're able to, Esther.
Okay, so look, there's definitely, with the benefits of doing team visioning, if we start with the team, let's start in the middle, at the middle layer. By doing team visioning, you can get a lot of transparency as to where your team is at across their understanding of the macro picture in the organization, their capability across all the key disciplines that we need to upskill into, things like business analysis, which is core, but then also data analysis is becoming more important, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, project ownership. Those core skills suddenly becomes a lot more transparent to say, okay, hey, where are we at and where do we want to be? So, and how specifically do we get there? So the benefits for the team is to, like I mentioned in the previous question, it's to give us the ability to know that we are focusing on the right things, we are adding value in the right places, and we're basically keeping on improving ourselves with this clear vision for each of these different areas. So that's for a team, and that also, of course, the side benefits to that will be a lot more collaborative, will be a lot more of a cohesive team. We will move together as a team instead of being dispersed across projects and just doing our best to fight fires. But if we look at the individual perspective, so the framework that I'll tell you about in a subsequent question is essentially about doing a bit of a self-assessment against certain things. So as an individual, you might be, when you're in this group, let's say we do our team visioning and we decide in a particular meeting, we'll focus on core BA skills, just to take a very simple example. We'll do, as a team, we'll do a bit of a rating where each of the people in the room would say, okay, let's look at our ability to do elicitation collaboration with our stakeholders. How good are we doing that? Or how good are we? How consistent are we? How structured are we? Whatever the dimensions are that we want to explore, each individual in the room will do an assessment kind of for themselves, but also for the team. And collaboratively, they'll say, okay, as a team, I think let's rate, there's a rating system you can follow. So let's score ourselves maybe a 3 out of 5 because of whatever the reasons might be. We are not where we want to be, but we're doing pretty well. At the same time, you've got the individual being able to do that assessment on themselves. So everything that you can do as a team in terms of this visioning framework can be applied directly to the individual person. So the individual can use this exact same framework to do their own career planning, essentially. And then the benefit for the organization as a whole, part of the team visioning objective is to keep the BA team very much in tune with where the organization is heading. What is the industry saying that we're in? What is the trends, or what are the trends within the industry? So how well do we understand that as a BA team? How well are we aligning to that as a BA team? How are we developing ourselves alongside that macro view? So it's very much, if the moment we start doing team visioning and we start taking ownership of our team in this way, you automatically become a proactive team. So your whole way of operating as a team becomes proactive, practical, and focused. And that will just ooze into the organization. People will notice that, people will see that. So, and if you, like I say, it automatically will align you with the organization. So the organization, instead of you reacting as a team to all the demands of the organization, you can, over time, if you do this consistently, become the go-to for the organization to come to and say, hey, we need to implement this change. Your team, you know, are very good in this area because you are now proactive. It's a lot easier for us to guide and provide advice. Because, you know, as I'm not sure your experience, but it can happen that we become quite reactive in the way that we work. We get driven by whatever the biggest fire is that needs to be fought, or the project with the biggest priority. And I'm not saying that's going to disappear, of course not. But I am saying that if we become the leaders kind of in ourselves as a team and being aligned with where the trends are going and the organization is going, by building up our skill sets and our capability and our mindset and all of those great areas, I think it's a great benefit to the organization to have a team operate like that.
Yeah, certainly seems so. And multiple dimensions to what you said there, Esther, which is all very interesting, I should say, in terms of, you know, I guess it's probably quite easy to think about the vision from an organizational or even a project perspective. And I think that, you know, but you obviously mentioned a lot more to it than that, in terms of, you know, introducing, you know, the aspirations of the team, you know, what's going on outside the organization, obviously what's driving a particular project or a future initiative, or the organization itself. So definitely a number of dimensions to it. And I guess one example that springs to mind based on what you've been saying might be the topic of AI, for example. So no doubt most organizations have a perspective on what they might want to do in the future relating to AI. You know, possibly teams might have a view that they need to upskill or be aware of the topic in some way. And possibly individuals as well within that team will have an appreciation of the importance of it as a topic. So that feels like that might be an example of something where it's actually an important topic from different perspectives, that you would have to think about, well, how are we going to address, you know, training, who's going to get that training, who's going to become aware, what is it we might need to think about, you know, maybe there's some expertise we need to go and get brought into the team, and a few other things besides as well, I guess.
Absolutely.
So I suppose perhaps sticking with the...
and you know, it's I think...
No, sorry, Esther.
Sorry, yes, no, that's all good. Can you hear me properly?
Yeah, we're all good, thank you. Yeah. We got you.
No, I think I was just saying that yes, artificial intelligence is very important as a topic area for sure. And that is really the driving force in the world now, changing industries, and it will just escalate and it will become bigger and more visible in organizations. And I think this, by doing team visioning and following a framework that's completely customizable, you can really help your team keep up with that change. And that is what inspired me to come up with this framework, is specifically the rate of change. We just won't have the luxury to sit and wonder about long-term skill development. We will need to be a lot more adaptive and agile.
So we were just talking therefore about AI, as it were. I guess the next question really, in terms of, you know, what is the team vision? What is the team visioning process or framework that you tend to follow?
Okay, that is perhaps a really good place to answer that question now. So I'll quickly give you a high-level explanation of the process and what's included in the framework. First of all, the framework that people get is kind of like a baseline. but they can tweak it and customize it to suit their particular situation, or they can use it just the way it is. But essentially, there are 5 different categories or areas that the team do this self-assessment on. To understand, first of all, they get a series of questions within a topic area that they as a team then, like I said before, do a bit of a current state analysis. So they very honestly assess where are we at as a team and where would we rate ourselves as a team collectively in a particular area. Once they've done that, they'll say, okay, where would we like this to be? What is realistic for us in a time frame of approximately, let's say, 3 months, but no more? You can either do this on a monthly basis if you've got a small team that you're able to bring together and do this quickly on a monthly basis, or you do it on a quarterly basis. And then once you've got that future agreement, you say, okay, we are here now, we want to be here. How do we get from current state to future state in practical terms? So what are the key steps we can take in the next 3 months? So that is the kind of the overall what you do for each category. Now, the different categories that's included is like I touched on before. The first one is macro. So you look at things like, what is the organizational vision? Are we aligned with that vision? Do we fully embrace that vision in the work that we do? What are the industry trends? How well do we as a team keep up with the industry trends? Can we do more? What else should we do? And then the next category is around capability. And this is probably the biggest category, where we look at key capability areas and we answer 2 or 3 questions for each capability area. And the capabilities that you'll find within this framework as a base is your core BA capability, your data analysis capability, your artificial intelligence capability, so you're understanding how AI works, the key kind of models out there, and all of that in terms of the organization, cybersecurity, product ownership, and your technical capability. And you, like I said again, you can customize this and put emphasis where you believe emphasis should be. But you do that assessment from a capability perspective. Then the next category is about execution. So how do we as a BA team execute? Do we use standard methods, or do each of us kind of do our own thing? How do we execute? Do we use templates or best practices, or none of the above? Should we use more templates or best practices? And if we do, what does it take for us to get there? So those are the types of questions. What quality assurance processes do we have within our team to ensure that we deliver at a certain level of quality to our stakeholders? Questions along those topics within the execution category gets answered by the team. Then you get to what I believe, especially into the future, is going to become more and more important. There's a category around connection. So this is about all those things around what is our BA team's reputation in the project space, in the organization, or whatever the relevant groups are within your organization. And what do we want the reputation to be? What are our relationships like? Is it consistently good? Is it not that consistent? Do we have a strong relationship with this department, but not with this department? And so forth. So you explore the relationships and how can we make that better and more sustainable. Values and culture. Are we living the values and culture of the organization? And then how well do we communicate as a team? And again, in the future, communication is going to become vital, more vital and more important than it's ever been, because communication is about communicating into the future more complex business models, more complex artificial intelligence concepts, and disruption-related process changes to our stakeholders. All of this is going to be amplified. So communication becomes a lot more important. And then the last category that you explore as a team is around mindset. So what is our mindset? Do we generally as a team apply really good critical thinking, or are we just reactive and we're just doing whatever we're told to do? Or do we really spend enough time having proper critical thinking activities around the problems that we solve? Or what is our leadership mindset? Are we following whatever we're told, or are we leading, and which areas are we leading? So, and where do we want to be? So it's all then about change. How do we cope with change? Are we the true change agents that we could be as a business analysis team? What areas can we improve on in terms of change? And then lastly, how innovative are we? Are we, again, are we actually thinking outside the box enough? What else can we do to be more innovative, to improve things that's perhaps always a bit of a problem or always a challenge? What can we do differently to change that? So what's the future vision for that? So across all 5 of those high-level categories that I've now just done a bit of a whistle-stop tour through, you do this kind of self-assessment as a team, and you sit, okay, let's just do a bit of introspection as a team and establish that current state. Let's do some visioning of where do we want to be with each of these areas. And then once you've got that view, it's a lot easier for you to then say, okay, what is it going to take us to get there? Excuse me. So I think with this, the last step of creating that roadmap of actions for the 3-month period, and I want to kind of re-emphasize the whole thing of coming back to it very frequently to keep it alive, keep it active, because it will keep on evolving. But you will find that across the different categories, you might be able to get some crossover with your roadmap items. So what you might do for capability might also help with something else. So it's a good idea to do your roadmap kind of at the end. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's what the framework consists of. That's roughly how it works. You can facilitate this as a big session where you spend, a bit of an offsite or a 2-hour workshop for your team every quarter. The first session would take longer than any other session after that, most likely, because you have to go through it the first time. But yeah, look, that's essentially, you can also break it up and you can say, okay, let's just talk about macro in this session. Next time we talk about capability in our next monthly session. Next time we talk about execution. If you really feel your time poor or you don't want to spend that much time doing the introspection, it really depends on your team leader and kind of the culture of your team.
I mean, it
But
seems like
yeah, in a
there's plenty of
nutshell, that's how it
versatility
works.
there in that model. It seems like there's plenty of versatility.
Absolutely.
So because I guess, there's obviously categories and different perspectives to take within those categories. And as you said, you spend a lot of time thinking about it all at once, or perhaps there'll be some teams where there'll be very obvious category areas that they should be thinking about based on challenges, team makeup, drivers that they're working on at present.
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
guess it seems less daunting when you know that actually, that it's a journey to improvement, and you can just focus on probably the 1, 2, whatever number they are of key items first. But perhaps over subsequent sessions or prior to those sessions, it seems like perhaps the team can be thinking, what are they going to bring to the next session? What have they viewed about maybe the culture that they perceive could be improved to voice it at the next session. So it seems a very versatile and practical framework. Really.
Yes. And the other thing I believe this will help with, it will become just a new perspective in your day-to-day role working on projects. You would be looking at your work from a few new perspectives that you may not have looked at before. And like you say, you'll come up with new ideas for the next time we run through it, or for the next topic area that we decide to tackle together. So look, I think it can only I believe it can really only enrich the team in terms of how they're thinking, give those new, fresh questions into the team, and the new questions that they can kind of contemplate in their downtime or whilst they're working on their projects.
That's it. Yeah, and it certainly seems so. And I mean, what you've obviously addressed as part of that overview and throughout the session so far as well is that I guess the organisation strategy and the vision for the organisation can be gradually factored into those sessions, or they can be injected at the start, and it will feature in different ways across many of those categories that you call out. It makes me think as well that perhaps there's other, I guess, constructs that could inform the focus. So, for example, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I guess if there's been a view in the past of like what our maturity model might be as a business analysis capability, maybe some of those areas can start to inform some of the priorities that we look at for the team vision.
Absolutely, absolutely. There are obviously other models out there that addresses different parts of it and different parts of the team. And I think if that's working, or you've done some work in using a different model, then this can only complement that, and I think it just helps maybe like to add a few more questions from a few more dimensions into the mix and helping you kind of envisage where it is you want to head which will, I suppose, bring the visioning part of it to life for you.
Presumably, Esther, as well, that extends to like other frameworks that might exist. So whether it's like agile frameworks that come in, whether it's process frameworks or otherwise, in a similar way, perhaps to my maturity model example, all of those can come together, and those frameworks inform the vision. Is that accurate as well?
Yes. Look, definitely, because remember, one of the categories is around execution, for example. So this is about agile. Do we use agile as a team? Do we use it consistently? Do we use it really well? Should we change how we apply agile as a method? So the methods and project methodologies and notational methodologies that we might use already just becomes another question that we can improve on within our framework. And you can put it into, if it's not already in the execution section, you can add 1 or 2 questions to bring it in. And then it becomes, okay, this is what we're already doing really well. This part of it we want to do a bit better. What should we do to do that? It can literally be plugged in as another element or just another question in an existing category, and build it into the vision that way.
Yeah, it certainly seems so. It's got me thinking about how I might introduce this into our BA capability that we have at Capco, or a business analysis chapter. I think we call it a few other things, but just that continual view of the community across. We have business architecture, business analysis, process, and operational excellence come together as part of that chapter. And I think it can often seem in that sense that there's so many things that we could do and should do, that having that more bite-sized 3-monthly view and just taking small elements of it that are more important to take forward. For example, maybe the operational excellence component of it. So it seems a very practical framework, which definitely I know that we can have scope to take forward as well. So quite excited about that after this.
Very good.
But I'll wait to the end of the session before I start talking about it with my colleagues.
That's all good.
I think you mentioned as well, talk about how we can integrate other frameworks such as Agile as well into that process. I guess another question that occurs to me really is how you keep that vision alive, across the team. So obviously, I know you mentioned about the monthly sessions and the 3-monthly sessions. Are there? Is it important to do this? Keep it alive, the vision as an idea, more often than that, or are there other approaches that you would recommend?
Look, I believe that doing it frequently will definitely help a lot, but as part of the roadmap items that you agree, you will make people accountable and responsible to a certain time frame. And I think by doing that, it's a very practical framework in the sense that there are specific things that people will commit to do outside of the session itself that will keep it alive, because they will be accountable for that. And when they come back in next month's meeting, you know, they would have had to show what they have done. So that is how you could do it. I mean, doing it every 3 months or every month, even if you decide to do it every 3 months, it might be worth just having a milestone check-in in your monthly meeting and say, hey, we've got some items coming out of our visioning. How is that progressing if it is a 3-month roadmap item? So a bit of extra communication can certainly be beneficial, but I think if you just the one thing you shouldn't do is you shouldn't just do it once and forget about it, because that would have minimal impact. It would be good on the day, but just like any visioning session, it will not have a lasting impact. I think you have to integrate it into how you work as a team. And, you know, and the other way that I believe it's also quite useful is to try and combine it with individual people's performance. Not necessarily their formal performance reviews, but they would each have their own career development plans. And this could be a great way to weave that directly into the career development plans so that people do feel responsible for the outcome. And you can so easily, and I know that a lot of BA teams lack having a formal career development plan, and they can literally take this visioning framework and make a few tweaks based on the individual and apply to the individual. So the individual can then really own it and literally live it, because it's directly impacting the person, which will also help to integrate it almost as a mindset in the team.
I see. And I mean, it's also building, you know, we sort of covered many interesting things so far about team visioning, which, as I said, you know, getting me quite keen to use it. But I suppose for others and myself, you know, where can I go, or where can we go to learn more about this concept, Esta?
Well, you can, there's 2 places. The first place, you can simply go to the BAE Excellence website. So it's BAInsights.com. There you will find under services, there's a menu item that has the visioning page, and you can download the entire framework completely for free. This is about empowering BA teams to take this on and do it themselves if that's what they'd like to do. If they've got questions or they would like some advice or help, they can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. I am, I think, quite easy to find. If you just search for Esta Lessing, you should find me. So yeah, that's probably the 2 easiest ways to get hold of the visioning framework. And just to maybe mention, when people download the ebook that explains exactly how to do the framework with all the intricacies, you also receive a worksheet that you can literally just take just as it is and plug in your ratings, tweak some questions if you want to change questions. But it's a nice, easy template to get you started as a team without you as a team leader having to do very much at all.
Excellent. So it sounds like there's really no excuse for anybody who is interested in the topic, such as myself, to be able to go to the site, learn a little bit more about it than we heard today. But you know, you feel like you've given everyone a little bit of a leg up with giving that questionnaire already to give a few ideas of practically what it might look like for the team as well.
Yes, and I'm more than happy to answer questions as well. So feel free to reach out to me. But yeah, it's all there. So I would just really like BA teams to, you know, be ready for this next wave that we are all entering at the moment and be the best that they can be.
And presumably, Esther, anyone that picks it up and uses it, you'll be open to hearing success stories from those teams as
Would
well.
love to hear, would absolutely
Yeah.
love to hear. Yes, that would be amazing.
Excellent. And I think things like that can only reinforce the value of frameworks and ideas and concepts like the one we're discussing today. So I'll definitely look into all of that with a keen eye, and hopefully be at a point in the future where I can share a bit of insight into how positive we've found it.
Yeah, that would be amazing, John.
And I appreciate Esther. I mean, there's probably a wide range of things that we haven't touched on at the moment around team visioning, but I think what is clear is what it is, the benefits of it, the fact it's really practical to and versatile to implement. But I guess as we draw to the end of the session, are there any other points that you might want to call out of any nature relating to team visioning that we haven't touched on?
Look, I think that sometimes people might think that it takes a bit of effort and everybody is always rushing and feeling like they have to hit deadlines. But I keep on emphasizing, and I know that I feel like I'm beating the same drum, but the change that we're facing is huge. And we can't really predict too far into the future, but what we can predict is that we are going to have to deal with very big changes. And to remain valuable to organizations, you need to focus on the right things. And this is just a tool to help you focus on those right things as a team and maximize our value as business analysts to the organizations, really. So I think I did say that already, but I wanted to maybe repeat that. But yeah, look, John, thank you so very much for taking the time to talk to me about this.
That's an absolute pleasure, Esther, to have you along and to hear about it. I mean, it's a topic obviously I didn't know anything about before this session. Definitely a very interesting one. One that I think, really, there's no reason why anybody can't start thinking about it in a very practical way. And as you mentioned already, like it doesn't have to be a huge scale in the first instance. It can just be within your team. But even the individual can think about this as well, right? So that's really positive to hear that practical side of it. And I suppose, I guess for some that might be daunted by the idea of introducing another framework, another idea, another concept, perhaps they can think about some of the others that they've introduced in the past that might have felt equally daunting at that point. I think about Agile as one example, but there's loads of positives that come from that, and actually we do it now without really thinking about it, and maybe things like which are quite comparable, like a retrospective that we might have had in those situations. This seems like a comparable type of activity. Albeit a bit more versatile, perhaps in terms of the way we can think about performance and many other things. But so I guess hopefully that small bit that I've added to the huge value you've added in the session can hopefully mean that people aren't daunted. They can go and have a look at the site and hear a little bit more about it, or read a bit more. They can give the template a go, the questions. As I hope to do in the future, post and share with you some insight into how you found it and how it's worked, and maybe that might start spreading the word a little bit further, so other teams can utilize it and get benefit from it.
And that sounds great, John. You actually just triggered one last thought. It's not going to make it fun. You can make this really fun for your team, so you can gamify this entire thing. And I know that these days we work virtually, so you can use virtual boards and post-it notes, and similarly to running retrospectives virtually using Miro boards or whatever, you can break this down so that it doesn't even look like a framework to people. It's about an activity they do together as a team. It's a team building activity that you can make people feel included, but in a fun way. So you don't have to take the spreadsheet and plug in the ratings necessarily. It's a great guideline, but you can take those questions and make them virtual boards, and you can have, divide the dollar. Let's vote on what do we think we're at, or where do we think we're at in certain areas. There's so many different ways you can actually get the information from your team and instill a bit of fun and, make people look forward to doing visioning in the end.
Yeah. And it means, there's, we're not stifling the creativity in any way, that individuals, the teams and organizations can figure out the way that works for them, and make it interesting, as you said, make it fun if they can as well. Maybe just challenge themselves to sort of like improve their own visioning process as they go on. And I'm sure they will.
They will, for sure. I will.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, I guess the only other thing to say, Esther, is really thank you once again. Really interesting topic. Definitely look forward to reading a little bit more about it on the website. Have a look through the questions, as you mentioned as well. And definitely, looking out for you and articles and various other things you might be involved in the future to hear a little bit more about team visioning. And and thank you very much. I look forward to speaking to you again, Esther.
Yes, thank you so much again, John. It's been lovely to speak to you. And yes, we will definitely see each other, I'm sure, out there in the internet.
I think so. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Please remember to like and subscribe the video. Reach out to Esther through LinkedIn as appropriate. And if there's anything else you want to hear about, maybe even use the comments as well. But thank you, everybody. Thank you once again to our special guest, Esther.